southern parts of Grayson County. So what I want to do is take you in a little closer and show you exactly what we have going on. There is the cell responsible for producing this warning. It does include areas like Sunfish, Broadway, Ponderosa, Ridgedale. If you see your town name and it's included within that red box, what I need you to do is take action immediately. I mean, hopefully you practice your tornado safe plan. This is one of those situations where I would take this extremely seriously. This is not one of those things where you say, hey, it never happens to me. There's definitely the potential. There are some strong signals of rotation inside the storm. And the other part that's dangerous about it, you're not going to see this thing coming because there's rain out ahead of it, which is why I don't want you to go outside and look. It's not even worth it. I know a lot of people tend to do that. But right now, get to the basement if you can, or if you don't have a basement, the best thing you can do is find an interior room, no windows, as many walls between you and the storm system. Around the Round Hill area is where we have the center of this rotation, and it's also going to have a lot of heavy rain and some lightning with this. So there's definitely some stronger signals with this storm system as it tracks off to the east. What I'm going to do is put a tracker on here so you know exactly what we have going on. And meteorologist Katy McGraw is also here with me. So, Katy, I'm going to go over to the wall, and I'll let you take over the radar computer. But there's a outlook for some of the other towns in line with this storm. Wax, 18 minutes, Straw, 28, and Wheeler's Mill, around 32 minutes. That is the outlook if the storm can maintain its strength. And as I said, it is completely wrapped in rain, so it's not something you'll see coming. There's some gusty winds as well, wind gusts anywhere from 40 to 60 miles an hour. There's a new scan coming in on radar. Katy, you still, exactly, Katy's pulling up the velocity scope, and she is still noting that we have at least some broader rotation the way it appears with that one. So, Katy, what are you seeing right now when it comes to the rotation with that?
Yeah, the rotation is right at the end of this. So if we get rid of the actual scope around right there, just to the south and west of Sunfish, it has that typical comma shape that's starting to build, and that's right where the rotation is. We saw it start to develop about 30 minutes ago or so, and it's just continued to now build in that intensity with the rotation. It is outside of Grayson County, but you see where the tornado watch box is issued, moving up to the north and also east. So that's where it includes the most southern part of our viewing area. Now, not all of us are underneath this tornado warning, but we do still have that tornado watch, and there is the likelihood that that tornado watch will be expanded farther to the east. So if we look currently at what that tornado warning is versus the watch, you see that it expands all the way up into southern Indiana. Well, I think what we're going to see it expanded farther to the east in just in the next half hour or so will be south of the Parkway. So that would include the Rue, Taylor, Green, Adair. Now again, that tornado warning is our concern for the moment, and that's all the way into our most southern communities. It is lit up like a Christmas tree right now with all of this lightning, so keep in mind the other threats that we have as well. It is moving up to the east at this moment at about 40 miles per hour. So that means that if you live in Sadler, Ponderosa, if you even live up into Snap, that's where we want you to start looking for your safe place, because we do have this potential for a tornado. It is radar indicated, which is important to note. It's just based on that rotation that we're seeing, so it hasn't been observed, but I don't want you to go try to see it either, because as Rick mentioned, it is completely rain wrapped at this point.
Yeah, Katy, it's just one of those things where you need to hunker down, just stay inside, stay in your safe place until we give you the thumbs up and the green light to go back outside. What I want to do, Katy, is just kind of take a little tour around the rest of the area, because some people are kind of curious, well, if we have a tornado warning down there, you know, what else is going on across the area? You widen things out, and you can see rain and thunderstorms for just about everyone across Kentucky. And a rainfall, which is heavy. There's some embedded lightning strikes, but I do want to make this clear. The only severe storms and tornado warned storms we have in town across our far southwestern area. Grayson County, if this storm can hold together, it will approach I-65, impacting Hart County, and then crossing over through areas like Munfordville and Hardeeville. So now is the time to sort of think ahead. Okay, if this storm maintains its strength, what does that mean for us? The warning itself will go through 5 p.m. Central Time, which means we still have another 20 minutes if this warning can indeed hold together, going in a little tighter. I mean, this thing is a rain-wrapped but classic textbook appearance in terms of the supercell, with the body, the tail, and that's where you find that area of rotation. So what is an area of rotation? Where you see those greens and those reds, those pops of color, right next to each other coming together, red indicating winds which go toward the radar and green away from the radar. So this is that area of rotation just to the south of Sunfish. The northern side, you might see some tiny hail between Sadler, Sunfish, but that area of rotation is going to track just like this along 259, could impact Straw, maybe staying to the south of Ponderosa, but no matter who you are, if you live inside that red box, Sunfish, Sadler, Ponderosa, Straw, you need to take this storm seriously and go to your safe place right now. So here's that storm tracking further off to the east, and it will do so at a clip of about 40 miles per hour. So it definitely has some speed to it in terms of the names of the towns impacted by this. Bee Spring around 8 minutes or so. Straw in the next 15 to 20 minutes. This tornado warned cell could move across the area. Again, it's still radar indicated. There are signs of some rotation, but we have not seen any signals that this has picked anything up and thrown any debris into the air. So we're going to check out the correlation coefficient, Katie, and just kind of see on there if we have anything that's rotating. Well, see, this is showing some signs that it might, but it's not inside the rotation. So that's why, for now, it's just radar indicated. The potential certainly there for a quick spin up. Now, areas thinking ahead, Munfordville through areas like Bonneville, in terms of severe threat, it's our southern counties. Not everyone's going to end up dealing with severe storms, but I know you're probably thinking, okay, well, I'm not living in an area that's dealing with severe weather. It's just parts of southern Grayson County. If you had friends and family down there, you want them to get the information. So this is why we're going to stay with this tornado warning until it is completely not a threat at all to life and property. As you look at the wide picture, there's a lot of rain out ahead of this. I know it's making the commute kind of nasty and it's just dreary, but this rain is going to help stabilize the atmosphere and lower the number of warnings we deal with this evening. But obviously we have some in our viewing area right now. We're going to have to deal with it. Another thing, aside from the severe risk, is also the flooding risk. And this is an insane number. Rainfall rates with that storm, 6.5 inches of rain per hour. Now, it's not going to rain the entire hour, but that just shows you how much rain we can get in a short period of time. If you don't have to be out traveling on the roads, I wouldn't advise it, because all you're going to do is put yourself at risk dealing with some flooding, rainfall. And in the metro, rain continues. Now, there is a break. We see a gap around English Oil. Heavy rain and thunderstorms in all of Jefferson County. That extends off to the east in areas like Shepherdsville, Shelbyville, up into New Liberty, as well as Salem. There will be a break in the thunderstorm activity. Doesn't mean we're done. Additional thunderstorms beginning to now flare up in areas like Jasper through around Evansville, which is why there's going to be several waves of storms between now and midnight for the metro. It'll take until about 2 a.m. before they clear the rest of Kentucky. So even though you get some storms and they end, it doesn't mean we are done for the night, because there's going to be a lot more rain behind this. When you get hit that many times, that's why I think we're going to have this growing to a flooding concern with each and every passing hour. Here's a look at the locations that need to be at the peak, their highest guard for flash flooding. Du Bois, Orange, Washington, Clark, Trimble, Carroll, all the way down to Grayson, LaRue, and Marion County. You are under a flash flood watch through 2 a.m. And I would say just along and south of I-64, that's the zone we have to watch most carefully for some of these storms, which could move over and over again, training and also, just depositing a lot of rain on those roads. So we're watching multiple threats here moving through the evening hours. Katie, why don't you take us in a little closer and give us the latest on that tornado warning, the timing, and also the locations impacted by it?
Absolutely. So we still, if you're just joining us right now, we do have a tornado warning in effect for the southern part of our viewing area, and that's in Grayson County until 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, or of course Central Time at 5 p.m. Now, this storm is moving pretty fast at about 40 miles per hour to the east, but you see also where the tornado watch box is. It's that maroon color that extends from Sunfish all the way into more of central Grayson County. So if you live into, let's dive in and look a little bit closer at some other cities that are included within that. Meredith, Sadler, Snap. Just outside of the warning is Wax, Dog Creek. So some of these counties and cities, or some of these cities, are just outside of our viewing area, but still, if you know somebody that lives is in those locations, let them know that there is that tornado warning in effect for the next 15 minutes, and it still has decent rotation on it. If we get the velocity scope on here, right where we're looking is between Sunfish and Huff, and that's where we have had this rotation, and it's holding pretty tough. And again, this is radar indicated, so we haven't gotten a report of one on the ground, but when we see those colors like the reds and the greens, and they're not on the right side, that's where we can tell that there is something happening, and that includes the rotation. Whether that's actually a tornado or maybe it's producing some hail, and there is a bit of hail there, a small hail, that's about a half of an inch. So it's not huge hail, but something to still be monitoring. There's also that heavy rain potential, and when we track out exactly where this entire cell is going to be going, it does have more of that easterly push, and it's moving at about 40 miles per hour. So it's moving really fast. So let's include a bunch of our viewing area, Ridgedale all the way to Straw in 15 minutes, and then Roseburg at 23. This is our only tornado warning. And I do think that as we move throughout the evening, the threat for a tornado is going to remain in our southern communities. And I just got word from the National Weather Service that unconfirmed rain-wrapped tornado in Edmonson County from an Edmonson County firefighter. So that is outside of our viewing area, but that's with this cell and why we have it warned for the time being. We are going to be watching this for the next 15 minutes, and we do have a lot of other news and stuff to get to, but unfortunately we have to stay with this for now because of that threat to life and property. That's why we're here for today. And what we're looking right now is this continued rotation. Has it changed? Has it come down at all? Rick, I saw you looking over at the velocity.
No, you know what? We should definitely stay with this warning because there's still some rotation. Now, it is kind of broad, and as you look at this reflectivity here, Katie, I'm going to sort of rock back and forth so you can sort of see the evolution of how this all unfolded in just a matter of minutes. We were mentioning on air that this storm system did show signs of rotation, and you see that thunderstorm, that supercell, and as we go further in time, you can see it sort of become this hook.
Yeah.
And then now there's this little area of enhanced rain around Ridgedale that comes out in front of it. So it seems like it might occlude or choke off some of the stronger rotation as we speak and at the current time. But it doesn't mean that you should let your guard down. But this may briefly allow this to sort of weaken a little bit, and then it may reemerge as it tracks further off to the east. But there's still some pretty good hail. Okay, so now we have an update coming in that we do have a confirmed tornado. So it does look like that report that we got in from a firefighter down in Edmondson. Fire department confirmed tornado. They did somehow manage to see it even though it's wrapped in rain. That's another key point that I want you to remember, that this is a rain-wrapped tornado, so it's something that you will not see coming. I don't want you to go outside and look for it. That's the worst idea you could ever think of. It's not one of those situations where you want to be outside. You need to stay inside in your safe place. What I've done is switched over to sort of our high-definition radar, if you will. And it does show that purple box, and that does indicate it's a confirmed tornado, that someone was out there, they saw it with their own eyes, they reported it to National Weather Service. And like I mentioned, you don't see any real strong signal where you see those greens and reds right next to each other, but they are certainly there, and we are really far from the radar beam, so we probably don't have that lower level scan that we would need to see. So like I said, treat this like a very serious storm, take the warning and go in your safe place, and we'll let you know when it's okay to come out of that. And I know this is probably confusing when you're looking at your TV screen. On the left-hand side, you see the classic reflectivity. You're used to seeing this. The other side is the velocity, and that one just shows us strictly winds. That's all we have on there. I'm going to put another layer on there, and it's just called NROTS, and what it does is it takes away all the clutter and shows you where that center of rotation is. And you can kind of see that on the southern tail. So it looks like now just to the north of Lindsayville is where the pocket of rotation has lined up. And if this continues on its track, it's going to go over 259. This is going to move between Bee Spring and Lindsayville. If you live in that zone, there is a tornado threat, and it's real, and it's coming right at you. So please do not hesitate. Go to your tornado safe place and do it right now. You only have a couple of minutes before this storm drives directly overhead. Like I said, Bee Spring and Lindsayville is where this storm is hitting. This is going to continue off to the east around 40 miles an hour at a pretty good speed. Katie, let's go back over to Storm View HD and get out of the 3D mode. Sorry for the flicker there, but we want to show you the wide picture and give you an idea of what's happening across the rest of the area. Katie, we've been talking all day long that our southern counties are at the highest risk simply because that's where all the ingredients have come together. We've watched the dew points come up, and it's like, we haven't mentioned dew points in forever. I mean, it indicates there's a little humidity in the air. There's some of the fuel for the thunderstorms. A lot of the area getting sort of rained down is what we say. The atmosphere beat up a little bit, doesn't have all the energy, but there's energy down there, and that's helping to keep these storms alive. Absolutely, and you can tell with how much lightning there is associated with those storms as well, how much instability there is present south of Tell City in our southern communities. The National Weather Service is busy with the tornado warning at this time, but the tornado watch that we have in effect is in effect until 6 p.m. So it's only 10 more minutes, but I do think that we'll get an update there of if it's going to be extended, because I think that the area that would be most likely for us to have a continuation of that warning would be in our southern communities where I'm circling right there, because that's where we still have that instability. It's clearly where we already have a warning in effect. And if you're just joining us, we do have severe thunderstorm warnings just outside of our viewing area, one in our viewing area, and that also includes a tornado warning due to rotation, not just on the radar. It has also been observed by a firefighter in Edmondson. So that's not in our viewing area, but that's that same cell as it continues to track east. But you see, when we look at that maroon box, that is the tornado warning, how it has a slight northeasterly push, so it's moving more into our viewing area. There's several things happening in our atmosphere today. We have a warm front lifting through. That's what increased our dew points for today. Dew points are so important for severe weather. It gives you that fuel. And then we have a cold front sweeping through from the west. Once that cold front sweeps through this evening, the threat will diminish, and that will be at about 2 a.m. But today and truly for the next several weeks, we're in severe weather season. So this is just the start. We saw what severe weather can do down in Nashville last week. We want you to get into your safe place if you live in Grayson County, and even if you're not included in that tornado watch box, but you live just to the east, Millerstown, Munfordville, in Hart County, in Grayson County, we want you to also start thinking about where you're going to go, because if this rotation holds together, if this tornado holds together, it's going to be continuing to push to the east, eventually crossing over I-65, which is not ideal timing when people are headed home for the day. This would include areas like Ridgedale, Straw, Broadway, all the way over into Macon, and that's where we're going to have this rotation continuing to move to the east. But that's a positive to see. Yes, absolutely. So what I wanted to mention is that it does appear that some of the rotation has come down, so that occlusion that we spoke about, the fact that it might choke off the storm, that actually did unfold. So it doesn't mean we're giving you the thumbs up, but it also means that temporarily it does look like we've seen a decrease in the rotation and some of that spin in the atmosphere. A good sign for those of you who are thinking in Hart County, and if you live within that tornado warned box, you're probably thinking, oh no, is this going to really happen? So it does look like a good sign in terms of the short term that the rotation has temporarily weakened. Does it mean the show is over? No way, absolutely not. The threat is still real, it's still alive, it's still there, but the rotation has briefly come down, and we'll see what the National Weather Service thinks about doing with this warning. It still has about 6 minutes to go before it expires. In my opinion, they might go over to a tornado possible tag. If this sort of weakening continues, it's going to go into an area and move into a zone that has a lot of rain. So in my opinion, I think it's going to be really tough to maintain this sort of strength, but this was just the one little area, this one little pocket where there's definitely more ingredients coming together. So with the rotation coming down, that is a good sign. Absolutely. It means they might switch over to a severe thunderstorm warning tag, possibly, or just plain old severe thunderstorm warning. But for the time being, since someone said they laid eyes on this and, you know, it's rain wrapped, there's always that potential, and you never say never with the weather. It's just one of the rules that we have here, which is why treat this thing as a strong storm with a potential tornado in it. And like I said before, it's going to include areas like Wax in Straw, Ridgedale. Those are all locations included. I'll go back over to reflectivity so you can get a better idea of what this storm looks like. It does have that slight little hook appearance to the bottom tail of it. The rotation has come down. and doesn't have the same signal that it did just a couple of scans ago. Ponderosa is still dealing with quite a bit of heavy rain, the back edge of it almost through. There's also some hail with this, so it's not just one thing. It's not just you're dealing with a potential tornado. There's going to be heavy rain. There's going to be some small hail in sections of it, and there's also going to be the potential for some flooding. So multiple threats on the table as we speak. This one will approach I-65 in the next half hour. Areas like Bonneville, Munfordville, through Upton. What you want to do is think now, okay, how can I prepare for this storm as it slides off to the east? And it is cooking. It is going very fast, around 40 miles per hour, if not a little faster. And it has a lot of heavy rain along for the ride. What I want to do is go over to some of the rainfall rates and just show you exactly how much rain is coming down inside this particular storm. So rainfall rates now even higher than when we last looked. It's around 7 to 8 inches per hour. That is just pouring down rain, gushing a lot of rain in a short period of time. So definitely be on guard for some flash flooding issues to also develop here. Do you have any word from the National Weather Service on what they're thinking about?
A strong line of thunderstorms is what their latest push is what they just said, a strong line of thunderstorms. So I have a feeling that they're going to be able to drop this tornado warning and for the time being go with a label that they do, which is strong thunderstorms. We still have also outside of this, if we widen out this perspective just a touch, that orange box is a severe thunderstorm, and that would still include those gusty winds and also the potential for hail, which we've already had within that tornado. But now that the rotation is coming down, that's where the likelihood is that we would see this tornado warning be expired. Planning to go downstream into Hart County with another tornado warning. So they actually have decided to continue to push this warning. The cell was looking weaker briefly, but downstream with the latest radar scan, did it come back up with the rotation? Because the National Weather Service is deeming that they're going to continue this tornado warning farther to the east into Hart County. So that means that we're going to be continuing to keep with weather coverage on a busy news day as well. I know a lot of people are looking for updates about the coronavirus, and we of course will have those updates as well as soon as we can get to them. And you can also find those updates online at WDRB.com while we are still covering all of these strong to severe storms and of course the tornado warning as well. Currently, we have that tornado warning down into Grayson County, and now the idea from the National Weather Service is with another tornado warning farther to the east, including Hart County. There's also the possibility of an extension on the tornado watch that we have had in effect since earlier this afternoon. There's a new severe thunderstorm warning as well now farther up to the north. That includes parts of Litchfield, Short Creek, as well. What are the main threats for that? 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. So Breckenridge and Grayson County. This just shows that we will have the potential for severe weather for our southern communities, which is where we've been highlighting it south of the parkways for this evening, continuing. We're kind of just getting started. We had all of that rain. You might have thought that, okay, that's done. We don't have the possibility of severe weather, but we have waves of storms throughout the course of today, and the threat doesn't truly come down until about 2 a.m. So we're going to have updates for you as we move into the next 5 minutes or so. But let's look at that other storm that's just been warned as well, because that is where we have another severe thunderstorm warning. Lots of lightning associated with that. Includes areas like Short Creek, Litchfield, and there's also that heavy rain, plenty of lightning, and this isn't really for hail, it's just because of those gusty winds. And as I was speaking about that severe thunderstorm warning, here's the new tornado warning that now expands into Hart County. If you live in Hart County, now is time to take your safe place, whether that be in your basement, whether that be in the bathroom in the middle. If you don't have a basement or even a closet, the best option for you to do, because this tornado has been observed at one point, is to get into your safe place, seek shelter now. Even if you live toward Metro and you have friends or family that live near Hart County, Grayson County, or even on the other side of I-65, give them a call, let them know about the threat just in case that they are not watching the news and they're unaware of this potential. When we look at the rotation here, it has come back up actually quite a bit. And this can happen during severe weather where you have periods of time where the rotation comes down and then it comes back up. And that's what we've seen with this cell and why the National Weather Service made the right call of continuing this tornado warning. Now it's going to be impacting areas like Ollie and Straw. Rick DeLuca, you have been watching and looking at all all of the other updates on other products and now headed over to the wall to do a little bit of some tracking for us with this latest tornado warning.
Yeah, we're gonna look and dive into this storm a little bit deeper. But as you mentioned, Katie, the rotation has come back up, and that is a sign that this storm has gained strength yet again. So it's going to be one of those evenings where they pulse up and pulse down, and just because you're in the area where it's pulsed down doesn't mean you should let your guard down. It just means just the entire track and lifespan of the storm. You need to be on guard, and you need to be on your A game in that safe place immediately. So the actual new tornado warning, it goes until 5:30 p.m. That is Central Time. Another half hour until this storm is out of your hair between now and then. Hopefully you have listened to what we had to say. You are in your safe place, keeping an eye on the storm system. It is in Hart County. It's going to impact areas of Munfordville through around Bonneville. What I want to just sort of look at is the actual structure of the storm. When you see those greens and reds coming together, straw 3 minutes, B in 10 minutes, and then Winesap in 60 minutes is when this rotation could move directly overhead. What I want to do is give you some specific roads. Nolan Dam Road, this rotation is directly overhead. If that rings a bell, if you live in parts of Grayson County on that particular road, then you need to be in your safe place right now. Gap Hill Road will be another one. Cherry Spring Road, that rotation is approaching Cub Run Highway in parts of Hart County now. And in Hart County, Priceville Road, there's also one last one, Raider Hollow Road, and that's just before you get to I-65. So obviously you know that one. But areas between, if you live in any of those roads, then that's where you need to be especially cautious as the storm slides through. So we're looking at is velocity, and velocity, all this does is it shows the winds. The greens and the reds, those are the most important ones. When those two colors come together, indicates a couplet, and that couplet is a very dangerous situation because it indicates the potential for a tornado. So watching that tornado warned storm very carefully in Straw, it's approaching B, Winesap, and also areas to the north and to the east. So it's moving out of Grayson County in the next 20 minutes. In about 20 minutes or so, I think you'll be in good shape, Grayson County. But as we go back over to the classic reflectivity, here's what the storm looks like. Supercell, there's your body, there's your tail, and if there's going to be a tornado, it's right here on that southern edge. So which is why I say Straw, watch out, heads up. It's going to approach areas like B and Winesap. On the northern edge, what you can get is a little bit of hail. So the hail core probably approaching the Roseburg area. The actual center of rotation will stay south along 1827. So here's the velocity. There's the greens and the reds. They sort of spread out a little bit, it appears, in the latest scan. But this thing is still spinning, and it is spinning fast. It's sort of like an ice skater. As they pull their arms together, they are able to spin a little faster. The same scenario here. And I want to mention one more time, it's not worth going outside. It's not worth looking at the storm. You won't be able to see a thing. It is completely wrapped in rain, so it sort of come at you in disguise, and you won't even have the ability to see this storm coming, which is why you should just be downstairs if you have a downstairs basement. If not, put as many walls between you and the storm. There's also going to be gusty winds, so I know a lot of people tend to disregard severe thunderstorm warnings. You can get a tree branch knocked down, and that can cause some serious injury to you and your family. It's not worth the risk. Katy has put on just the wind shear, and clearly Ollie Straw right in the center of where the strongest rotation appears to be, and this will continue its journey off to the east. So if you live in Ollie, if you live in Straw, safe place right now. You need to be there 5 minutes ago. Please take this one seriously because this tornado warned storm is tightening up fast and then weakening and tightening up fast, and it's going to continue to cycle through the rest of its lifespan as it moves through parts of Grayson County, out of that, and into Hart County. So, Katy, it's not just this tornado warned storm. We actually have a severe thunderstorm warning as well. Tell us more about that.
Yeah, we do have that tornado, we have the tornado warning down to the south, and then we have a severe thunderstorm warning right now in parts of Breckenridge County. I also just wanted to let you know that because we are breaking into our newscast, and of course it's been a very busy news day as well, a lot of stories about the coronavirus, and if you're interested about the JCPS and what they're currently having a presser right now, we're streaming that online so you get the information information about their plans for possible closures. So if you're looking for that information, don't live anywhere near the severe weather, you can find that on WDRB.com. Again, the JCPS presser about the coronavirus. Now, what we're looking at right now, if you're just joining us, we do have a severe thunderstorm warning that includes areas like Short Creek, Litchfield, and also Indian Valley, Lilac. You notice the difference between what we're seeing here. We have this area over towards Hickory Corner, and that's where there's a little bit of some redder colors. Some red colors, but there's also, in comparison to down to the south, where we have the rotation that's still down into our southern communities near Straw County. Now, we are going to head over to the news desk just for a minute to get an update about JCPS, and then we'll come back to what we're experiencing here.
All right, Katie, Rick, thank you both very much. Marty Polio, the superintendent of JCPS, discussing right now what's going on with the coronavirus and JCPS classes. Let's listen in.
To move forward, and thank Brent McKim for joining us and his support with JCTA and all of our teachers throughout the district. So we have spent the past few days in contact with the governor, with Dr. Moyer and the mayor, local health department, to provide all precautionary measures for our students and staff and our schools. And we know in times like this, decisions are very difficult. We've wanted to keep school open as long as we possibly can to provide services for our kids who need them so often at our schools. But at the advice of the governor and health officials, I'm announcing that Jefferson County Public Schools will be closed starting on Monday, March 16th, through spring break, which is scheduled to resume back from spring break on April 6th. But obviously, we'll continue to monitor that along the way to ensure safety of our students. But at this time, once again, JCPS will be closed Monday, March 16th through, will return at this time scheduled for Monday, April 6th. We know this is a hardship for families, and we do want to give time for our parents to make alternative arrangements for their children, especially in regards to child care. That's why we will be opening tomorrow, and we will be in session tomorrow. We'll also at that time be distributing supplemental learning materials for our
students. And that is JCPS Superintendent Marty Polio. He just announced that JCPS will be closed from March 16th through April 6th. You can continue watching this right now on WDRB.com, but we want to go back to weather right now. They are covering some severe coverage in the Kentucky area right now.
Right, so what you're looking at on your screen is two panels. On the left-hand side of your TV, it just talks about and shows you the wind. On the right-hand side is the normalized rotation. You kind of see how this has evolved. Let me take you back a couple of scans. We had that confirmed observed tornado, which moved out of Grayson County. There was a firefighter who witnessed this around the Bee Spring area. And then notice how the rotation comes down, and then right in that scan, it materializes again. And now we're looking at it pulsing back down, which means this is, again, in a weakening phase. Does that mean you can let your guard down? Absolutely not. But there might even be a signal that it has picked up maybe a couple particles or perhaps a little bit of debris. What you're looking at on the right-hand side is the correlation coefficient, and this just measures particles in both the vertical and the horizontal, and it does show the potential that it might have picked a couple pieces up. There's not much going on there, but it might have thrown some things into the air. So there could be a little bit of damage going on just to the north of Mammoth Cave, and that is just outside of Hart County. So again, if there's some damage, it is not in Grayson County, it is not in Hart County, but if this continues, it will certainly move into sections of Hart County. So it does look like the tornado threat in Grayson County. I want to give you the green light and say go ahead. Now you're much safer, but there's still a severe thunderstorm warning, so do not let your guard down. But in terms of the tornado threat, that has diminished significantly. I'm going to go back over to our other radar, which is more of, instead of the HD, we'll call it the 3D version. I'm going to turn off the lightning so you get a better idea. You can orient yourself a little better. Clearly, it's our southern counties you have to be most concerned about. Well, we have our multiple waves of rain and storms that will continue to press through. So we have one which is now sliding off to the east, and then I'm pointing out that secondary line of storms which is beginning to develop. And this one, since we had so much rain out ahead of it, should be weaker, and we sort of know that because the lightning count is much lower. Around Evansville and Tell City is where we have the strongest storms. So what I want to do now is just give you a quick tour around town and show you the warnings that we do have in effect. Hart County, you are under a tornado warning until 5:30 p.m., and that will continue its journey further off to the east. The other warning we have includes southern Breckenridge County, northern Grayson County, and southern parts of Hardin County. This one for some wind gusts, potentially around 60 miles an hour, and also some hail, which could be about a 1/4 inch in diameter. Multiple threats with any single storm we have. I would say the wind threat is a little higher with this storm system. Some gusts around 60, probably more likely than dealing with hail. There's also one other storm, which is just outside of the area, but this one could also clip us. So what I want to do is just stay with this warning, the tornado warning. It's impacting areas like Winesap. You must be in your safe place. If you live inside that red box and your town's on the list, you need to go into the interior room of your house or in your basement if you happen to have one. What I want to do is just sort of give you a quick idea of what's happening in terms of the spin or the velocity or the rotation, and there's still that signal, there's still that couplet in there. It's not as pronounced as it was, but it's definitely still an issue as you move into the western part of Grayson County. So this is going to come into our area very, very shortly. There's that defined line. That's where the county ends and where Hart County begins. So this area of rotation is now moving into Hart County. So we need to watch this one very carefully. You live in Hart County. I hope you already took action because there was a small little signal that it perhaps picked up some debris and lofted it into the air just a couple scans ago. So do not let your guard down. If you live in Hart County, the storm system means business and it's moving your direction. It will approach I-65. I don't know if it's going to have the strength because it is moving into an air mass that has been dealing with quite a bit of rain over the past several hours, but it still shows there are greens and there are reds banked up right next to each other. We call it a couplet when you have those together, and it shows some solid signs of rotation. Putting a tracker on this one, Winesap in 9 minutes, and let's say the Munfordville area, 20 minutes or so, just to give you a heads up. If this thing can maintain its strength, it will have more of a tornado threat and a wind threat as opposed to anything else. Now, anytime you get a thunderstorm, you know there's going to be lightning, you know there's going to be heavy rainfall. Those are the obvious, but this is why this storm system has so much attention because of the rotation. Now, if you stepped outside at all today down there, you probably noticed it turned a little humid. That humidity is fueling these storms, which is why I know it's not spring, but it has that springtime feel to it. When you get supercells with these tiny little tails and hooks on the back side, it's a clear indication that these things can and perhaps will produce a tornado, which is why in Hart County, you need to take this one seriously and be ready for the potential for this tornado to move through. Katie, why don't you give everyone an idea of what's going on outside of that tornado warning, because there's other threats involved that include some wind and maybe even some hail.
Absolutely, because we don't just have the one tornado warning. We do still have the severe thunderstorm warning that's impacting some of our other southern communities as well. Also, I wanted to update you. We did get word from the National Weather Service about the tornado watch that we have had in effect since earlier today. Well, that watch has now been extended in both area and time. So now it includes more of our communities, including all the way up. It's butted right up against Jefferson County now, includes Bullitt, Nelson, all the way over into Washington, and extends farther even into the eastern part of Kentucky. It's also been extended farther in time. So originally this warning was issued until 6 p.m. Well, it's 6:13. Now it's in effect until 1 a.m. I'm sure we'll be able to trim some of this as we move throughout the evening, but this shows that the threat for severe weather, tornadoes, and really all modes of severe weather are on the table for today. So that includes the potential for tornadoes, which we're already seeing right now in Hart County. If you're just joining us, if you're looking for the information about JCPS, there's information online at WDRB or anything about the coronavirus. But we do have this tornado warning in Hart County until 5:30. So we're going to stick with that because we did get a report from the National Weather Service that it was confirmed on the ground by a firefighter in our southern communities. So that means that the threat is very significant. It's not just the possibility of it being on radar. Now that was about 20 minutes ago, but it has continued to show that rotation. Now, if we look right now, it's not the most impressive rotation we've ever seen. It's pretty broad, but I'm going to actually scoot it back just a little bit and show you how at times it's come down and at times it's come back up. So that's why the National Weather Service has continued with this tornado warning as we move to the east and tracking out locations that are going to be in this tornado warning and maybe even a little bit beyond, because it's moving east at about 35 miles per hour. That includes Munfordville at 15 minutes. Truly, we want anyone that's around this tornado watch box to get into your safe place, because we have this potential for a tornado. There is rotation currently radar indicated, and as Rick noticed before on the radar was something called CC. It did look like maybe it was briefly lofting something into the air.
Okay, Katie, just to give you a little more information, the National Weather Service is saying that they're having some technical difficulties, but the tornado watch is going to be extended. So the counties, even though you are not in the watch and you will not see this appear, there it goes, it actually popped up, so they must have been able to fix it. So those are the new counties included in the watch. It includes LaRue, Marion, Greene, Taylor, Adair, and basically all of our counties, Bullitt, Nelson, Washington, through the south of I-64, you are now under a tornado watch. So we mentioned, Katie, that this could potentially be pushed further off to the east, and that is become materialized now. Now we do have everyone in the game south of I-64 under the tornado watch.
Yeah, and for the next 7 hours. So it's not just for the next hour or so. This is through the rest of this evening. So we do want you to be weather aware, even if you live in Nelson County and you're not currently experiencing this tornado warning or even that severe thunderstorm warning in Breckenridge and Grayson County, that the potential exists for it to happen later today. Again, all modes of severe weather are possible today. This is for the tornado watch and the potential for tornadoes, but we also have just a straight line wind threat. That's what we're currently experiencing. In fact, with that severe thunderstorm warning in Grayson and Breckenridge County, there's a bit of a bowing element to this storm, and that's where you're going to see some of those stronger winds in the area right around where I'm highlighting. So in between Short Creek is where some of those strongest wind gusts are going to be. If we put on wind shear there, you're going to see that little area of blue. So it takes away all of the clutter, shows you where some of those strongest winds are, and it's because it looks like an archer's bow. We do talk about that from time to time. Beyond that, there's lots of lightning, and even there's a hail potential with this. When we look at the hail, it doesn't look too bad right now. And of course, why we're doing wall-to-wall coverage is because of this. We have that tornado warning that's down in our southern communities, includes Bonneville, Munfordville. We dive in and look a little bit closer at some other locations. You have Rowletts and Litchfield Crossing, and then outside of the warning but continues farther to the east. I want you to start thinking about your safe place, even though you're not included in the warning. If the rotation continues like it has been for the last 30-40 minutes, Rio, Pike View, down into Hardeeville, that's where we will have the potential for the rotation to continue, the tornado warning to continue as well.
Okay, so Katie, Cherry Spring Road is just one of the roads that I saw on a computer that popped up that caught my eye. If you live on Cherry Spring Road, this is right on top of you. You need to be in your safe place immediately. There's also a signal that this thing is going to continue to pulse up and pulse down. And what I want to do now, Katie, is just kind of take everyone around the tour and show you what's going on. So let's go to downtown Louisville, and we'll talk about what to expect there in the coming hours. Now, in terms of the severe threat, I want to get this point out there. The threat is much higher along and south of the parkways where we're seeing severe weather unfold. If you live in Louisville and you're curious, what does that mean for me? Well, rainfall and thunderstorm action will end in the next 10 to 15 minutes. You can see the back edge with only a couple of showers in areas like Georgetown down through PRP. So this heavy rain will push off to the east. You'll see a short period of dry time, which is this gap right here in Cordon, Greenville, but additional thunderstorms have now begun to pop up, and you see them flaring in areas like Tell City through Jasper and English, arcing up into Paoli as well as Salem, which is going to be another issue later on as additional storms come through, more heavy rain, more lightning, and perhaps some gustier winds. So the tornado threat, by far, the highest threat is occurring as we speak down here across our southern counties, which is why we have a bunch of warnings, including severe thunderstorm and tornado. So heavy rain is lining up to the east of I-65, embedded rumbles of thunder. Rainfall rates with these storms are intense. I mean, we've seen some numbers between 6 and 8 inches of rain per hour. It won't rain for an hour, but when you get that much rain in a short period of time, it can lead to some areas of flash flooding. And you can see the rainfall rates still showing ranging between 3 and 7 inches of rain per hour around Litchfield and areas of western Grayson County. So even the new storms that are firing up also have a lot of moisture to work with, and you know that when you step outside and feel the humidity. Definitely a soupy feel. It feels like it's spring, which is why there are these spring-type thunderstorms out there. Katie, I want to go into this particular storm, the one that has a tornado warning. The center of rotation is now in Hart County. It's right on top of you, Winesap, directly on top of you. So this one's going to continue its journey pretty rapidly, 35 to 40 miles an hour off to the east. If it does so, it's going to be between Munfordville and Bonneville around, let's say Munfordville in 8 minutes, and Hinesdale around 14, Hardeeville, if this thing can maintain its strength, around 15 to 20 minutes. And the way the storm has evolved, it's been pulsing up and pulsing back down, gaining strength, weakening, gaining strength, weakening. I fully expect this trend to continue as it tracks off to the east, crossing I-65 pretty shortly. And so if you have anyone who lives down here, you can get a text message, a phone call right now. Let them know, give them a heads up that there is a tornado-warned storm that's going to cross over I-65. A lot of people traveling I-65 this time of day. It is now 6:20. I mean, you have a lot of people on the road. This could be a dangerous situation with a potential rain-wrapped tornado, which is going to slide across a main interstate. We're going to keep an eye on this one because, again, like I said, it's sort of an evolving situation. It does not mean it's going to maintain that rotation all the way through, but the potential is definitely there. In terms of some of the past couple scans, it does look like the rotation itself has come down a little bit, but as we've seen, it doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that we're going to lose this storm altogether, because it can, at any given moment, come back to life, and it can ingest a little bit of this warm, humid air. And what that will do is allow this to maintain its track, maintain its intensity. There's other threats out there. There's also some gusty winds. Katy is highlighting right over Winesap where we have that couplet, that area of rotation. So you can see the National Weather Service just updating that tornado warning. They've basically made it smaller to include the areas that really need to be on guard. This is, again, a tornado warning which continues, and I believe it goes for another at least 9 minutes or so, and then we'll see what the National Weather Service does in terms of extending it further off to the east. But there's two threats. Tornado and quarter-size hail are what they're really starting to hammer home in terms of the main threats with this one. Again, approaching I-65 between Bonneville and Munfordville. In Hart County, if you live in Hart County, you need to be in your safe place. There are people who are probably watching in other sections of the area and just thinking, I don't live anywhere near there. It's not impacting me. This is a real threat to life and to property. And anytime there's a threat to life and property inside our viewing area, we take it seriously. We don't take any sort of location more seriously than the other. Every single town and county and city inside our DMA, we're watching you, and that's why we're going to stay with this warning. We're not necessarily just going to let this one go, because the rotation does appear to have come back up just a little bit in that last scan. So Katy, why don't you rock back a little bit and take us through the timeline and kind of show us, you know, when it pops up, when it pops down, and give us the evolution of the storm.
Sure. So if we go back about 20 minutes or so, the rotation had come down, and I actually thought that maybe we would be able to cancel the tornado warning, and then it came back up, and the National Weather Service made the right call of continuing the tornado warning. And this can happen a lot with severe storms and tornado warnings, where you see that rotation bobble up and down, and that's where it's now continuing that trend. So as it moved into Hart County, rotation came down a touch. But as we get an update right here at 6:23, rotation is back up. That means that the threat is alive and well at this point, and we still want everybody that is in this maroon box and even farther to the east of I-65 to be thinking of your plan. The tornado watch has now been expanded to include more of our viewing area and also expanded in time. So it basically goes, let's just show that real quick so you get an idea. From Bullitt County, Meade, Nelson, Washington, all the way down to Marion, Greene, Taylor, Adair until 1 a.m. So originally it was more of our western communities, but this shows that where we have that better potential for severe weather today, including tornadoes, is going to be in our southern communities. When we look right now, we have that first batch of rain. We had talked about this a little bit, that we would be seeing waves of rain moving through. That first area of really widespread rain for some of our eastern communities is starting to push out, but we still have that area where there's so much severe weather down into our southern communities, and that's south of the parkways, which is where we've been highlighting all day today, where we would have that greater threat. The severe thunderstorm warning down into Grayson County also now includes parts of Hardin County as well. That's because of the straight line wind threat. So when we see straight line winds, there's a difference with the tornadoes where you have that rotation versus just a straight wind gust, but still that can create that damage as well. Then of course, let's get rid of the clutter. The lightning is certainly a threat. Be aware of that. When thunder roars, get indoors. But let's take it away so we get a little bit of a clearer picture here and how we do have that tornado warning in effect for Hart County as well. This is continued to have a signal of rotation. It will increase and then come down, but the threat is there, and this storm has had a history of actually being observed, which means it's not just us talking about the threat that we see. It means that somebody actually laid eyes on it. It's also just about to cross over I-64 between Bonneville and Munfordville, which is a dangerous scenario because if there is a tornado, that means that it's going to be crossing over a very busy area. Lots of people live in Munfordville, and also a very busy interstate at not a great time. Beyond the fact of the rotation, there's also a really heavy rain, blinding downpours with this. Rainfall rates are out of control with this. You see these purples here. We don't get them too often, anywhere from about 5 to 7 inches per hour. It's not raining for an hour. Raining for a half hour, though. That's where we still have that flash flooding watch in effect as well. That continues until 2 a.m. because we're going to be seeing something known as training, which is areas of storms, repeated rounds of storms hitting the same areas again and again. And we do have another line of showers and storms that's going to be pushing through basically the same locations that are currently dealing with that severe weather right now. It's very obvious when you look at the lightning how there's still that instability from Evansville just to the south of Du Bois County into Tell City. That's where we have that second wave of showers and storms, and just tracking back a little bit, you see the direction that they're headed. Basically more easterly, but still has a bit of a southerly push as well. And we are going to be continuing to monitor throughout the rest of this evening that potential for not only the severe weather we're seeing now, but continuation down the line.
Katie, it kind of looks like that the rotation has begun to tighten up a little bit with that storm now in Hart County. It's kind of taken on that little hook on the southern edge of it. So anytime you see radar and it has that appearance, it kind of makes your stomach turn a little bit because that's what you don't want to see. You don't want to see these little hooks, and you don't want to see those greens and those reds right next to each other because it indicates some of that rotation. So I want to mention now that there's also, outside of this warning, there are some gustier winds. So Millerstown, get ready, potentially some wind gusts 40, 50, maybe even approaching 60 miles an hour. Those will blow through. And notice how it's different. We have this unidirectional linear wind situation here. And then sort of, you can see the difference of what's occurring down in Hart County. There's the greens and the reds kind of knocked up against each other in these two little couplet areas. And that is a different sort of threat. Instead of straight line winds, which all move in one direction, this indicates turning in the atmosphere, that spin and rotation. And this is right here, which is between Bonneville and Munfordville, where you have that little couplet lining up. So this is definitely a sign. Katie, if you rock back a couple of scans, it can kind of show the whole story, how it's lost some of its intensity right there. And then notice how in the past couple scans, it has begun to strengthen yet again into a legitimate potential tornado, radar indicated. Now, earlier, someone had their eyes on this thing down in Edmonson County where a firefighter said, okay, I saw a tornado. The same situation has now basically held true because it could be wrapped in rain, so it might be hard to see. I do not want you to go looking for this one, but it appears that the rotation has yet again picked up, and I hate to say this, but it has picked up just before approaching the I-65 corridor. This thing is flying further off to the east, and it's doing so around 35 to 40 miles an hour, and could be in Glen Lily in about 15 minutes, and then Rio in the next 20 minutes if this area of rotation holds together. You have to think that the area of rotation is tiny. It doesn't impact everyone inside of Hart County, but if you live inside this red box, then you need to pretend like it will and act as if it will. The southern edge is where you get the tornado threat, the northern edge more of that heavy rain and the hail threat, quite a bit of lightning with the storm system. It's going to cross over. You see that tiny little hook appearance. It's not as pronounced as it was earlier. It doesn't scream tornado or anything, but it definitely has the potential at dropping a quick tornado, lifting back up, dropping a quick tornado. Wouldn't be surprised if we get some damage reports tomorrow as the National Weather Service goes out back here to the west. Basically, right now, we're going to see how the rest of this unfolds because it's tracking further off to the east into an area that had a lot of rainfall. That's why we're not seeing this storm system, the classic supercell, with a lot of warm, humid air getting ingested into it. It's actually basically moving in an area that has dealt with rainfall for several hours. Now, there's also a flooding threat. I don't want to give you the wrong idea. This is not just tornado, tornado, tornado. There could be some flooding. You could deal with some damaging wind gusts around 50, 60 miles an hour, maybe some hail sort of pinging all over the place on your car or your roof. I don't want you to be out and about if you don't have to be. Please just stay inside, stay home, and stay with us throughout the entire duration of this warning until we say, okay, it's safe, we can let it go, and you can go back to doing whatever it is that you're doing. But it does appear that this storm system still has a hook on it. So if that's the case, until this goes away, until we see the tornado warnings expire, then we're just going to have to stay with this one. Any word from the National Weather Service?
Yeah, it does look like they have decided to expire on time the tornado warning and not continue it downstream, even though the rotation is still present, but they are going to be keeping a close eye on it. Of course, we are going to be monitoring it as well in the Weather Center. Reminder here that we do have the tornado watch in effect until 1 a.m. So that means that the threat is not completely over, even though it's good to see that we did have the tornado warning canceled for the time being. If anything changes, we will, of course, let you know. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back.